Hello, students. Welcome to Marketing 3336, Principles of Marketing. Today I'm going to be covering Chapter 9 from the Principles of Marketing, Kotler and Armstrong 18th edition. The title of this chapter is Developing New Products and Managing the Product Lifecycle. In addition to the chapter material today, we're going to have a guest speaker. So I hope you enjoy the conversation with the guest speaker, and please stay around for that, since much of that will be on the test this week as well. Let's start out by talking about the importance of new products to companies. So if you think about the amount that companies spend, and this is a chart that was put together by PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the largest consulting firms in the world. One of the things that they track is what they call the global innovation R&D spend. So R&D stands for research and development. And this is spend in real dollars in billions of dollars. So when we say real dollars, that means a dollar's adjusted for today's value. So a dollar in 2007 wouldn't necessarily be the same as a dollar today. It would probably be worth more. So we adjust it for inflation. So these are all comparable dollars. So if you look at the amount that's being spent, the amount that's spent when contrasting 2007 to 2019 is approximately an 80% increase in research and development spend. So companies are spending more and more money each year on R&D or research and development in order to really keep up with the markets, to be able to bring innovation to market. And that is because customers are expecting more and more from companies. They're expecting that innovation to come quickly and to be rapid. And one of the things that we actually see often is that other firms innovate quickly after a firm innovates. So the window by which something is innovative is small. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to talk about this concept of innovation, R&D, and commercialization, and the role that marketing plays in that function of the research and development within a company. So let's start off by seeing a short video. This is a great.
So I think the three best things in Europe from a tech perspective are really AI, mobility, and fintech. Those are really the three places where we see the most activity and the most prospects for European tech.
So the biggest tech trend I see is the global power of local. How do we use technology to bring communities back together, to bring them from the online into the offline world and recreate that face-to-face physical humanity again?
Healthcare is in dire need of disruption, and in my own industry, artificial intelligence and deep machine learning offers a chance to make healthcare more equitable, more accessible, and more affordable to the entire world.
I think the biggest tech trend for the next few years is mobility as a service. This is going to be a massive shift to the way we travel, we use transportation, and it's really going to change people's lives.
The real issue is what I call hyperconvergence, which is where you take many types of data and create a platform that management can see all of it on.
I reckon the next big tech trend will be the disruption of existing industries like retail, like storage, with players coming from the technology angle and software. They could either work with them or displace them.
I think one of the ones that we don't talk about enough at the moment, and people are used to the idea of speech recognition, is the natural evolution of that science, which is the elimination of the keyboard.
It's the combination of two technologies. One is the whole machine learning, or we call it computational crop design, in combination with the genomic technology. Use those two to solve the food system challenge.
I actually think we're moving away from this. Everyone's looking at mobility, or everyone's looking at finance, towards this massive kind of explosion of diversity of ideas. If you look at what we've done over the last couple of years, we've just funded a lot of corporate VCs and a lot of diversity investors to really, really hunt out people who think differently.
So one of the things that you see here in that discussion is the concept of new products and the amount of time and effort that companies are spending on it. You heard all these really terrific ideas about the launch of new products that are coming forward. One of the things that you have to remember is that at the center of any new product is the concept of bringing value to the marketplace. If the customer doesn't ultimately see value from that innovation, it will never be successful. So one of the strategies that firms have been thinking about for some time in the marketplace is two forms of different strategies recently. One is what we call the acquisition strategy. That's when a big company or parent company buys out or acquires the licensing rights or the ability to utilize product from other companies. So what they do is they haven't developed the product or the idea internally, and they don't have the rights to it, but they find other ideas outside and they acquire those ideas, bring them in, and then produce them and commercialize them into the marketplace. That's called acquisition. Also, there's this organic development called new product development, and that is inside the company itself. Rather than going outside to buy our opportunities or our technology that we can bring in and buy the licensing rights maybe to it, what we do is we develop that internally within our own organization. So we start from the idea all the way to the finished product and we bring it to the marketplace. And that's called new product development. One of the things that we see in trends is that we have been in a history of the last 10 to 15 years of a high merger and acquisition strategy concept in the marketplace. In fact, many companies have been acquiring other companies, merging with companies, and trying to bring them in order to be able to leverage the assets that those companies have and to improve their likelihood of launching and growing the marketplace with new products and new innovation. But one of the things that they found is that's not working as well as they thought it would. And one of the big shifts that's happening in the marketplace is this concept of organic growth, that is growing organically, growing from within, using our own assets and resources to be able to develop ideas and to bring products to marketplace and commercialize those products effectively. And that's the concept of new product development, where marketing and sales play a pivotal role in the development of these new products and their ability to bring them to the marketplace. So let's ask this question: why do these companies want to innovate? Why not just go for more mergers and acquisitions? Why not go to Silicon Valley, some small company that develops something, and a big company acquires their great idea and then brings it in and then tries to launch it? Well, one of the things that they found is that companies have not been as successful as they thought they would in bringing in this merger and acquisition strategy. In fact, a large percentage of these mergers and acquisitions actually fail to yield positive outcomes for organizations. So one of the things that we do know is that top performing organizations, they have a higher percentage of commercial success in their new products. So if we look down at the bottom of this page and we look at the top performing organizations in the market and we look at the bottom performers, look at the percentage of commercial successes of new product launches. Top performers, 62% of their new product launches are commercial successes. Bottom performers, it's only 45%. That's actually a tremendous difference if you think about the amount of money that they're spending on this on the new product development process. So the question is why aren't they as good? And why do firms need to be good at the development of new products? In addition to that, we're going to explore marketing's role in the development of new products today as well. So this is what we typically call the stages of new product development. Our book goes through this in some detail, so I'm just going to cover this briefly today, but I'm going to expect that you have read that in the book and got some more detail on this concept. But if you look at the process, it starts with the idea generation. We often call this the ideation process, and it ends in the commercialization process. So it starts with the concept where we generate ideas for new products, and it ends with the concept of what we call commercialization. And that's where we take that new product that we've developed and we actually launch it into the marketplace. So that you see that there are many steps in between ideation and commercialization. And most companies call these stages or stage gates. Oftentimes we call this gates because we walk through each gate to get to the next stage, and the product development process could be cut off at any time between one of these gates. So the first gate, or the first stage, is from the generation of idea to the idea screening. This is where the company screens the idea itself to be able to say, is it feasible? Can it be useful? Is it going to be something that could be successful in the market? How does it compare to other ideas and things that we've come up with? Assuming it makes it past that, it comes to what we call the concept development and testing. This is where we actually test the concept itself. Does it make sense? Is it viable? Could we actually do something with this and produce it? And if it passes that stage, then it goes to the next stage, which is the marketing strategy development. This is where marketing really gets involved and says, how much value will this bring to the consumer? How could we market this and bring it to the market most effectively? What would that take to be able to do that? Where would we price it? How would we position it relative to the competitors in that marketplace? It goes then to a business analysis where they calculate what's the likely revenue that this would make? What's the return on investment? How would it do financially? Assuming it passes that important stage, it moves to the product development stage, where we actually physically make this product and try it out. Then it goes to test marketing, where we try it out in the marketplace. We actually have consumers use it and we sell it maybe in test cities or test markets around the country. And then ultimately it moves to the final stages, which is commercialization. And that's where we roll it out to the entire sales organization, or we start to launch it through the marketing function or e-commerce function of our company. So what we see here is many stages, starting at ideation and ending at commercialization. Now, one of the things that we know is that organizations have reported historically, and this is a study by Booz & Company, another big consulting firm. And what they did was they asked senior executives across a number of major organizations, what are you good at in these stages and which ones are you weak at? And unanimously, almost unanimously, they said, we're pretty good at ideation, the idea generation. We're pretty good at the product selection. We do a pretty good job of product development, but when it gets to the final stage, which we call commercialization, where we're actually launching in the market, that's where we're not successful. And in fact, the biggest single gap is this gap between engagement with customers to prove real-world feasibility and the actual rollout or launch of the product into the marketplace, which is an enormous gap. I actually wrote a Harvard Business Review article on this last year that ended up being the cover article of the Harvard Business Review. And it's something that I've studied a number of years, and it's really a troubling phenomenon for organizations, which is why they're not commercializing effectively. So let's explore this a little bit, and we're also going to explore it in some depth with Verizon, which is a great company of innovation today, and talk to a fellow named Seth, who's one of their leaders at the company, about Verizon's commercialization process. One of the things that we do know, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, is that firms that do a better job of really focusing on their growth by being organic, that is developing new products and new ideas and bringing them to the market themselves, are the ones that are most successful. So if we look at the bottom third of firms, the middle third, and the top third of firms, the ones that are the most organic are the most successful in their amount of growth. So these are S&P 500 firms, and this is the percentage of growth. And what we can see is in the orange bars, that is the most organic of their growth. And what we see, particularly among the top third, is there's a tremendous advantage to having this organic growth, which is really new product development. The reason we call it organic is we're growing on our own. We're not looking for external sources to be able to make this grow. We're organically growing, so we're doing it ourselves. And it brings in a capability into the organization by doing so. So one of the things I wanted to talk about that's a super, very hot process right now in the marketplace as far as product development is this concept of crowdsourcing. So crowdsourcing has become super popular right now. And one of the things that you might consider looking into a little bit is examples of crowdsourcing. So one of the examples that I'm going to show you briefly is an example of crowdsourcing through Lego. And so what Lego does is actually they put a contest in place that they allow people to come up with ideas for Lego. And if people come up and the users of Lego come up with an awesome idea, they actually share in the profit if Lego ends up making that product and selling it in the marketplace. So I'm going to show you a brief video on that so you can check it out. And hopefully you find that interesting, and maybe some of you who are Lego fans will actually send in ideas to Lego and be able to see this concept of crowdsourcing that's become extremely popular now.
Have you ever had an idea for a new Lego set? On Lego Ideas, you can check out proposals for new Lego sets created by fans just like you. Find your favorite projects, vote, give feedback, and even submit your own. If a project gets 10,000 votes, it enters the Lego review phase. Then, our review board evaluates and selects which project will become the next Lego Ideas product. Members whose projects are selected are recognized for inspiring a Lego Ideas set and even receive a percentage of the product's sales. Once the design process is complete, the next Lego Ideas product is produced in our factory and shipped to stores. Finally, the Lego Ideas product is available to buy. And you made it happen on Lego Ideas. So what are you waiting for? Check out cool projects on the Discover page, or learn how to submit your own by clicking How It Works. The next set we approve might even be yours.
So as you've seen, this crowdsourcing has become one very popular area of implementation. And it's really interesting because when customers get involved in it, it brings in a likelihood of success because we truly know that there's a user-generated demand for that product in the marketplace. So because one of the challenges that we see is oftentimes when new products launch, 65% of the time, products launched by established companies actually failed. And that caused huge implications. There was a study done in 2010, and I'm sure that this number has actually increased, but it has huge financial implications on these failures. $260 billion of investment was spent on failed launches by companies. Those are commercializations that did not result in success. So we know that being able to market and being able to sell your product and understand the value to the customer is critical for the success of those products in the marketplace. One of the last things I want to talk to you about this before we get into our interview with Seth at Verizon is to talk about this concept of what we call the product life cycle. So one of the things that we know is that all products go through a life cycle. And that is, we go through the product development, and then the product gets introduced in the marketplace. Let's think of mobile phones here. So if we think about smartphones, they develop a smartphone, it gets introduced, people start getting into it, it's the growth phase. People start saying, wow, I really want this mobile phone, and they get into it, it starts to become popular. Then that version of that mobile phone hits the maturity stage where almost everybody, it maximizes the point where the most people have it out there. And then at some point after that, it becomes dated and there's new products that enter the marketplace, and it goes into what we call the design phase. But if you look at that, the aqua, or the blue line here, is the line indicating the sales of the product over time. So what we see is that the sales actually maximizes during the maturity phase. And that happens to be when the profits maximize. Remember, profits are the amount of money that we make per sale is our profit. So what we know is that when we're launching that product and we're developing, we're always negative because we're not selling anything. So we're investing money, we're losing money. It isn't until we hit the growth phase that a product starts to make money for a company. So it's very important that they become successful and they take off, because if they don't, they never really reach this growth phase and they never really accomplish the success that they're looking for. So one of the things that we know is marketing plays a tremendously important function in designing, researching, pricing, everything around a new product. And marketing is integral to the success of these new products, particularly in understanding the customer value proposition of the products. So now let's get into this interview with Seth Hackmeister from Verizon. Well, class, welcome back to our Marketing 3336 Intro to Marketing. We have the pleasure today of having Seth Hackmeister with us. And Seth actually is a graduate of the University of Houston, our MBA program, and he is from Texas. Seth, you reside here in Houston?
Yeah, I'm in the Cypress area.
Oh, cool. So he resides in the Houston area, and you know we've had the pleasure of working with Seth for a while, and working with him both through the marketing as well as the Selling and Sales Excellence Institute, and he's been a great guest for us. And we're looking forward today to talking to him in particular about this topic of new products and a lot about how Verizon launches and leverages their new products for success in their organization. So. Seth, you're a director of business and sales at Verizon. Can you tell us a little bit about that role, and then maybe a little bit about yourself and your evolution of your career that got you to that role?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Professor. So I've been with Verizon for 14 years. Started back in 2006 as a outside sales rep. So I started carrying a bag as an account executive with Verizon, a territory in the Houston market. In 2006, I spent a couple years in oil and gas and in leadership prior to that. I knew I had a passion for leading people, but wanted to do that entry-level sales job, learn the industry first. So I did that for a couple years, then started my path into leadership. In 2008, I started as a senior manager, small team in the Houston market, about 5-6 people, running a specific vertical, selling to construction companies throughout the Houston market. Then I became our next level of a leadership managing partner, a team of about 30 people, once again in the Houston market. And then I spent the last 5 years as the director of sales over South Texas. So I cover Austin, San Antonio, Houston, everything in between and south of there, and then Louisiana as well. So today, I have a 130-person organization when you include support, leadership, sales professionals across that market. My team produces about $500 million, $500 million in annualized revenue for the company. So I've done that for the last 5 years. Absolutely love this company. Love the University of Houston. Did spend 3 years in the evening master's program. Verizon has an amazing tuition reimbursement program. So I was doing that at night while I was doing my day gig with Verizon.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So, wow, you spent a lot of time at Verizon. So this is going to be a great interview because you have a lot of institutional knowledge about Verizon. So it's going to be super helpful. Yeah. Maybe we could start off with a little bit of a background. You know, I think almost all the students have heard of Verizon, and many of them are maybe even customers of Verizon. It would be great to learn a little bit more about Verizon and maybe about some of the elements of your business that they're not as familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Outside of the consumer area, even.
Yeah, absolutely, Professor. I hope there are some. I thought that a prerequisite of your class was that everyone was a Verizon customer. I'm just playing. But yeah, most people know what Verizon is. Verizon's been around since 2000. We just celebrated this year our 20-year anniversary. A lot of legacy companies made Verizon prior to 2000, GTE being the biggest one. We kind of are a conglomeration of legacy wireline companies. In the Northeast, we have a huge fiber, what we call FiOS footprint, where we own a lot of the cable in the ground, the traditional wireline services, internet, and cable, or home cable, stuff like that. Most people know what we do from a consumer side. So you see our commercials, you've walked into a store, you know we sell phones, tablets, stuff like that. But that is becoming an increasingly small part of what my team delivers, what my team does for our clients. Our goal really on the B2B side, which is what I own, once again, so I own outside sales professionals that exclusively sells to businesses. And they don't realize everything that we do. So when you think about Houston, the Houston market, we help oil companies have connected pipeline for leak detection, flow detection, temperature detection. We have connected job sites for oil. You know, a lot of the work that required somebody to go out to a site, inspect it, turn a nozzle on or off can be done remotely now using our network. Collection of data, triggering events at job sites is a big part of what we've done for a few years. Our company too, on this side of the house, is trying to be a true technology provider to our clients. We don't want to be just network connection, cell phones, tablets. We layer on so much more on top of that. We'll talk about product development here in a minute, but we've made a lot of acquisitions lately. It hurts my heart a little bit to be on Zoom with you, Professor, because we, a few months back, acquired a competing product called BlueJeans, which is really targeted towards business customers. It does a lot of the same stuff, I would argue a little better than Zoom, but BlueJeans allows you to have breakout sessions, annotate, do meeting highlights. Even the customer can highlight parts of the meeting that they want to be able to refresh later on or take to somebody else in the company that was applicable to different departments. So we've made a lot of acquisitions over the last couple of years. Also now the largest vehicle telematics company in the world through acquiring various companies. So anything from dots on a map, knowing where your vehicles are, but also idle time, knowing how much gas is being consumed when somebody's idling, route management, maintenance of vehicles, all of that kind of stuff is all encapsulated into our telematics business. Additionally, we are starting to go down the path of internet replacement because our wireless network is getting so robust. We're constantly, even on our 4G network, increasing capacity of it. We've started to replace small businesses' internet with a wireless router solution. We'll talk more about that when we get to 5G. But there's a lot of additional products. We also, on the B2B side, care deeply about mobile security. A lot of companies do a really good job of keeping their laptops, their servers secure. But now more and more data, very proprietary data, is going over mobile devices, tablets and phones. So we also help customers figure out the right solutions for their mobile security to protect the device and the data going over our network. So that's a little touch of some of the other things that we're focused on our side. And our theory too is if we do a good job of all the other stuff, if we differentiate ourselves as a company by talking about these other things that really fill a gap, provide a solution or prevent a risk, then the other core business like the phones and tablets come naturally. So that's a big part of our sales.
That's a really diverse array of offerings for the marketplace. That's pretty neat. I really didn't even know the number of offerings that you guys have. That's really interesting. So and it probably takes a lot of effort on your sales and marketing teams to keep up with all the the technology and all of the the features and benefits and everything about all these things to be able to really appropriately sell them into the market. So it's really there's really an expertise level that's required to really be effective at this kind of thing, right? So when somebody comes in, they're probably like a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of information they have to learn to really be effective at the roles.
Yeah, I would say that that's very true, Professor. My goal too for my people is really, I call them a quarterback of the relationship. So their goal is to be that feet on the street, understand the needs of their clients. But then we have a robust, some of the stuff I've talked about are Verizon owned, like BlueJeans, like our telematics business. But then when you talk about some of the other stuff like security, we have partners that we just can put a MOS 360, many people have heard of that, or Mobile Iron on a Verizon bill, but we turn them into a lead over to them and they come into the sales process. So a bigger and bigger part of what we do is ask the questions, understand the business, and then bring the right partners or support into the conversation to further the dialogue, make sure it's a good fit for what the business is looking to do.
Cool, that's awesome. So
I feel like I know a little bit about a lot of things. I'm far from the expert in everything that I just mentioned.
No, I mean, but you really have to know some about everything to be able, particularly even ask the questions of a customer necessary to find out if it's an opportunity for them to be able to turn them on to these types of offerings. So that's really cool. One of the things that we're covering today, as I mentioned to you, Seth, is that we're really getting into the topic of innovation and launching new products to the marketplace, with a particular emphasis on understanding how companies, not only how they come up with new products, but how marketing and sales plays an important role in the design and launch of those new products into the marketplace. Maybe what we could start off with is you could talk a little bit about a couple in particular, maybe a few of your new products that are coming out or services that are coming out that are particularly important at Verizon over the next few years.
Yeah, when I think about that question, Professor, I think of how we categorize new product offerings. And really, there's two categories for Verizon. It's adjacent and then evolutionary. When you talk about like adjacent products, I'm talking about things that complement our core competencies around network, particularly best-in-class network coverage. That's our core, right? That's our phones and tablets. The adjacent products that we ultimately launch are usually brought in by a partner. So, I talked about mobile security. We do mobile forms. These are offerings that we have, but they're not products we own. We didn't acquire a company. We have a partnership to bring them in and bill on behalf of. But it's very complementary to the core of what we do. And frankly, if you're buying that core from us, you want to know that it's secure, that you're able to make the most out of that product. These are adjacent product offerings, and we're constantly evaluating that portfolio to see if there's anything else that we should bring into the fold, anything else that businesses need to effectively use that core product set. Right. Evolutionary is where it's really fun. Usually when I talk about some of the stuff that we've acquired, like even Blue Jeans. So Blue Jeans is a collaboration tool, but since it's been a part of our platform, we've made it a business tool by adding some of the features I mentioned, like quick breakout sessions so that a company can do a training session and have small breakout groups in a few seconds. Being able to add videos to incorporate a video into a meeting, a virtual meeting in this COVID environment, because all my people are working from home right now. During this time. So we take products that we think we can really improve. We go and buy those companies or those assets to make it Verizon and to make it better. Also, when you talk about evolution and making products better, it starts with our network. So we have our 4G nationwide, which really meets most consumer needs. I know everybody's excited about Apple 5G devices or what Samsung's already launched, but that's that consumer play that doesn't change how you're going to use a device. So you're not going to be able to play that song any faster. It's not going to be any better from Spotify because it's on 5G versus 4G. You can do a lot of streaming cool things from our tablets and phones off of our 4G network very easily. 5G is the evolution really from a business standpoint. And that's where the product offerings get really, really cool and revolutionary. So with 5G and why it's different for businesses is really, it goes down to something called latency. How quickly the network responds. If you do a speed test on your device, it shows you what latency is. Really, really good latency is like 70, 80 milliseconds. When you talk about our 5G network, it's capable of single-digit millisecond latency. Wow. Which allows companies to transform how they do things, allows them to make real-time decisions. If you think about a manufacturing process, and I don't know, I took a supply chain class at U of A to deep into Six Sigma and making decisions that fall out of those outliers. Companies will be able to do stuff like that over our network because they'll be getting data real-time, and the equipment will be able to change or adjust automatically without human involvement.
Oh, that's awesome.
You also talk about, when I talk about latency, is being able to pull data into the decision from multiple factors, being able to, do remote healthcare different by pulling in all kinds of analytics from not only the person's vitals and information, but also from other multiple sources to make a real-time decision on if this person needs to go see a doctor or needs additional help. There's all kinds of really cool stuff. One of the things we've done with 5G is a partnership with AWS, Amazon. So we announced that a few months ago, and now we've launched something in 2 test markets. And once again, when we talk about product launches for Verizon, we usually test it out in a couple key markets. Yeah. So 2 areas that we have great 5G coverage already, we built out the network, are in the Boston area and in San Francisco. Okay. So our first initial launch with AWS was in those 2 markets. And what AWS brings to the portfolio for us is cloud services. So AWS is best in class when it comes to cloud. So we're marrying our 5G network with their cloud services and putting cloud capabilities on the edge of our network. It's called 5G Edge, which allows customers' data to be as close to the facility as possible to even decrease latency further. You know, if you're doing a speed test, you get different results if it's connecting to a server in Dallas versus Boston.
So what kind of businesses, Seth, benefit the most from that kind of speed?
Yeah, so manufacturing is a big part of it. Being able to pull these data sources, being able to pull their information on the cloud as close to their facility, as close to where the decision needs to be made as possible. But the great thing, and this is true of every product launch, I'm glad you asked that, because I think back to my career, every product launch, when we launch the capabilities, we don't fully grasp of what it's going to mean to the marketplace. Mm. I remember when we launched, just a quick story, 3G. That's when I started as a sales rep, and we launched something called Air Cards that you plugged in. Some of your students probably have never heard of this because it's so long ago. But where you plug in a device into the laptop, which enabled it to be remote, not connected to a cable. Yeah. That was the first time we had something like that, and we couldn't imagine. Why would people want to work remote? Maybe people who traveled a lot, maybe real estate agents needing to pull up data. But we were trying to figure out the niches that would have that kind of need. Nobody worked remote back then.
Yeah.
So, and now look at the world just
transform
later. Yeah. So we build out things, especially from a network perspective, a capabilities perspective, without fully understanding the capabilities that it's going to enable down the road, because some players come in, and so many software players, manufacturing players ultimately want to use this technology to launch new products. You see that with every evolution of our network. And it's only going to be more true because of the capabilities of 5G. So we're starting with AWS, and really what we're doing in those 2 markets, and literally this week, in addition to Boston and San Francisco, we launched New York, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta. But these are test markets. We're just simply testing that capability. We're allowing test companies, to put data on the edge of our network and see what business cases exist for it. What can they do with that sort of latency that enables their business to do things differently? And that's what's exciting about 5G for Verizon. We're launching our network. We're not just taking low bandwidth spectrum and calling it 5G because the technology exists. We're doing it with a different capability with this 5G Edge and the cloud capabilities, so that it enables really for businesses to do things differently than they've done before. Something that's maybe a little bit more real world is some of the testing we're doing in Houston already. So Houston is a 5G city. We have 5G capabilities. You can go to our website and see what streets to the street level have 5G capabilities. Yeah. We're starting to test for businesses, and I'm involved in this, replacing, once again, internet. Right now, I can do replacement of internet for small businesses, replacing that landline connection for 5, 10 employee business. Yeah. But there's a lot of restrictions. 4G is great, but at some point the bandwidth is bogged down. Our 5G network has 1,000 times more bandwidth, 1,000 times more lanes of highway to take more data through. So now we're able to expand our offering to not just small businesses, but to medium and larger businesses, and completely remove the need for them to have hardline cable going into the office or connecting anybody. Everything will be able to be done over our 5G network. So that's one of the capabilities that I'm finding customers, businesses to test for me literally right now.
Oh, that's really cool. And it gets a little bit to our next topic, which is, I just want to spend a couple minutes on this, which is really, how does the new product development and the marketing team work with sales to do the passover for commercialization when you ultimately fully launch a product into the marketplace?
Yeah. Verizon tries to be on the cutting edge of everything. Often we launch things well before, you think of the product life cycle. before it ever reaches that acceleration or maturity point. This is one of those. It's going to be probably quite some time before we really get the financial benefits of our 5G network and some of the capabilities we've talked about so far. So what ends up happening out of our headquarters is our marketing, our IT team start putting together the solutions, start working with partners, because there's always a robust partners, even for the stuff we've talked about, the partners that router solutions for us. Put the AWS is crucial to that cloud capability I've talked about with 5G Edge. So we bring everyone together, put together the solution, and then we once again find test markets, businesses that would be a good starting point to start building white papers. A critical part of our business is those white papers and replicating what has worked. So in those test markets, we are trying to uncover all of the uses. We think, manufacturing is a good fit, and, certainly healthcare, but we're also finding, great other uses of that kind of data in the government space, how they can pull big data from stoplights and other security cameras to make real-time decisions about the safety of people, citizens, stuff like that, so that traffic flows or flows better by using security cameras they already have to make decisions on when to time stoplights at different times. So we're continuing to find use cases, but it's usually build the feature set, decide on places that we're going to start launches, small cities. We always start that way with 2, 3, 5 cities to launch, and then we start building the white papers to help commercialize it. That's when, I'll be building white papers for some of our 5G internet solution tests that'll be deployed throughout the country as we continue to improve or increase our 5G footprint.
And your sales team takes these white papers out as proof points with your new prospects to be able to show the value that it could bring them in the business. Is that right?
Yeah, it helps quantify it. It helps provide data. When it comes to some of the either capabilities or cost savings that we can bring a business, we need those examples to come and say, hey, I'm asking you to do something different than what you have done traditionally. Yep. Businesses, just like people, kind of get stuck in their ways of doing things. And a lot of the stuff that I bring and my team brings to the table is very different than what they've done in the past to run their business. So I have to have that proof. I have to be able to explain to them, this is what we've seen it do, proof that it is done for other businesses in a similar situation as yourself.
That's great. So one of the final things I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today, Seth, and I know our students would be very interested. We have over 1,200 students watching your session today and learning about yourself and Verizon. And one of the things many of them would be very interested in is understanding what the career opportunities could be at Verizon as opportunities develop. So what would a student be looking into possibly doing as an entry-level position, and what kind of tracks are there out there for them from a marketing and sales area?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're a 140,000 person company. And once again, that's not just wireless, it's wireline, it's consumer, it's business. We also have offices in 23 countries. So we have a huge Western Europe footprint, tons of sales offices there. We have so many subsidiaries, like, beyond what I've even mentioned. We bought Yahoo, AOL. We have a media brand. We're actually the 3rd largest digital media brand in the world, behind 2 small companies you may have heard of, Facebook and Google.
Yeah.
So we're a big player in that space. And typically what I see is people come to Verizon in either a retail sales rep capacity or as an account manager, someone for me, that type of capacity. But really, and what I tell every new hire is, once you have done that job, understand our culture, our product sets, those type of things at a very, very, very strong level, the doors are open to do almost anything else inside the company. Easy tracks around sales. If you have a focus and a love around that, we have account managers, and then you graduate or can be promoted into major account managers, where you manage accounts and businesses over 500 employees. And then we have an enterprise group that handles a Fortune 1000 type companies, and you manage them globally for Verizon. So we have a clear path up through just wireless sales. People start with us in retail and love the store business, that daily hustle. People love that part of the business, and you can move up through leadership there. And a lot of people start in retail and then end up coming over to my side of the business in B2B. Obviously, we have a great leadership path, which I kind of shared with you, my path. Up through management. But then I've had people go do training for us after they've been a successful sales rep, operations, marketing. I even had somebody go to a finance job and has moved up through finance. And then you have subsidiaries. People have gone and said, hey, I love sales, but I want to learn another part of the business. I'm going to go do our wireline. And wireline, they think of internet, but our wireline business is evolving too, because we do something called software defined wireless access, where you can manage your network traffic even through wireline through a portal. We do all kinds of things around security solutions for that wireline infrastructure that most people don't know we do. So people will go to wireline, our telematics business, Blue Jeans, our collaboration tools. They'll go do different jobs in different parts of the business just to expand their resume and learn more about everything Verizon does. But there's so many subsidiaries, so many different parts of the company. It's endless, and it's ever changing what's available.
That's awesome. That's great. And so it sounds like there's a tremendous number of opportunities that could branch off into. And I mean, obviously, you guys are an enormous organization, so there's a lot of opportunities, and even internationally, which many of our students have aspirations to ultimately move internationally. So that's really cool. Well, thank you so much, Seth, for spending your time with us today.